Hey guys, what's up? Hope everyone's having a great day and I hope you were doing well out there in the world. Okay, so last episode of Amber on the stand in the UK, when Depp took NGN and Dan Wooten to task for calling him a wife popper, we ended up on day 11. We ended up ending on day 11, and we were talking about Australia 3-day not a hostage situation. And it's looking like Amber has to kind of admit that there was no hostage situation at all. She was able to leave, she was able to get out, she was able to call for help, yet she didn't. Okay, so where are we now? We are starting on day 12, and Miss Laws is still continuing to question Amber. Miss Laws was Depp's attorney in the UK, so let's go. So question, Miss Heard, can I please take you back to the events that took place in Australia in March of 2015? We dealt with much of the incident, so I'm not going to rehearse any questions that I went through with you yesterday. I'm now going to put the claimant's case to you to give you the opportunity, obviously, but we have dealt with the facts, but to give you the opportunity to indicate whether you agree or disagree, all right? Amber, yes. I'm going to suggest to you that a row took place on the 8th of March, which went round in circles. Amber, there was also a fight that day. Yes, I disagree about when it arose. Amber, row and fight are the same thing. Just an FYI. Ms. Laws, it went on and on. Essentially, I'm talking about the Australia incident. Sorry. Amber, I understood. You did. All right. Mr. Depp was trying to get away from you again and again. Do you agree or disagree? Amber, oh, I disagree. You worked yourself into a rage, screaming at him. Do you agree or disagree? Amber, oh, I disagree. And you took a bottle and threw it at his head. Do you agree or disagree? Amber, oh, I disagree. Because you would get yourself into rages on occasions, would you not? Amber, into rages? Yeah. Amber, no, angry at times, but not into a rage that would cause me to throw anything at him. Okay. Amber, pots, pans, vases, you admitted it yourself. This, even in the face of words flying out of her face that the world can hear, she'd be like, nah, I never said it. That's not the conversation I was having, so you did not hear it. Amber goes on, but not to the extent whether I would throw something at him offensively. Okay, Miss Laws. Well, we have gone through a number of incidences and I have played tapes. I'm not going to go over that again, but I'm going to suggest that throwing things is something that you do and you do in rows with Mr. Depp. Do you agree or disagree? Amber. Only when it means I can escape him when he's beating me up. That's it. Miss Laws, I'm sorry. There was a lot of begging then. Can you raise your voice? Amber, sure, of course. I said no. I only threw things to escape Johnny when he was beating me up. Sometimes that was all I had. So you would, on occasions, lose your temper so much that you would punch him and hit him. But never. I punched him or hit him in self-defense of myself and my sister that time on the stairs that I told you about. I'm sorry. I'm going to have to fix that for Amber because she fucked up. Never. I punched him or hit him in defense of myself and my sister that time at the top of the flight of the stairs that I told you about. Miss Laws, and when you threw the bottle at his head, I appreciate you disagree, but I'm going to suggest that you threw the bottle at his head. It smashed the mirror behind him rather. Amber, no, I do not recall there being a mirror that was smashed downstairs in the rumpus room where the majority of the bottles were thrown. Miss Laws, you threw another bottle really hard and forcibly at him and his hand was on the kitchen countertop. Amber, no, Johnny was throwing bottles one after the other. But I would like to be clear. I did break a bottle, but it was very early on in the evening. That was the second evening, if I recall correctly. We had a second evening, and it was before Johnny had started to throw the bottles at me. This was earlier in the evening, and we were in an argument about whether or not he was going to drink the liquor. I came downstairs, and he was still drinking. And when I confronted him about it, he offered me the bottle, as if he actually said, "Oh, if you want it so bad, here, take it." And Justice Nickel, just a minute, he offered you a bottle of spirits? Amber, yes, he said, "Oh, yeah, you want it, here, take it." At that point, drinking had he had already given up for a while, and it was on the list of, if this happens, I leave sort of thing. It was a no fly. He just gestured to offer it to me, and I reached to take it, and he pulled it back from me. And then and Justice Nickel, just a minute, he reached for the bottle? Amber, I did. I reached for it. And Justice Nichols, sorry, I thought you were saying he reached Mr. Depp. Amber, he was holding it, taunting me to take it, teasing me to take it, and I would revoke it when I reached. And Justice, did you say revoke it? Amber, revoke it. When I would make to reach for it, then he did it again, and I had in my head all of the times that he had said I saved his life by standing up to him about the booze. He would tell me all the times I saved his life. I thought, honestly, I could short circuit whatever cycle at this point I was familiar with us entering into with the booze and him drinking, so I reached for it. I got the second time and I smashed it on the floor in between Johnny and I. Amber, I regret I did that. I was so upset. But I think it snapped. It snapped something in him, and he just reached for the bottles that were on the counter. It was fully stocked counter, and he just started picking them up one by one and using them like grenades or bombs and throwing them one after the other right in my direction. And not one hit you. Not a one. But he's got precision throwing, pinpoint accuracy when it's a cell phone and your face. Okay. Okay, easier to throw a bottle. Just saying. Just saying. Amber, I felt glass breaking behind me. I retreated more into the bar and he did not stop. I was too scared to look behind me because I just felt glass hitting my back, the back of my arms, and I was just looking at him use one bottle after the other. Injustice. So you were saying he threw several bottles in your direction? Amber, he threw all the bottles, all that there were in reach, all except for one, which was a celebratory magnum-sized bottle of wine that I later noticed had been the only one out of 30 or so that were on the bar. That was really saved. That was weirdly saved. I will never forget it. It was just resting on its side, unbroken. It was the only one. Okay, so I'm going to stop you right there, Amber, because you said he did horrific things with a bottle that was unbroken. Right? Right? Injustice Nickel. Thank you. Ms. Laws, the question was, and I suggest to you that the reality of the situation was that it was you who had lost your temper, and it was you who threw the bottle. And that is the answer you have just given to that. Can I just ask you one thing about something you have just said? You do accept smashing a bottle, but in very particular circumstances where you just said you had in your head at the minute that you smashed the bottle on the ground, so nowhere near his finger. Amber, nope. You had in your head that you had saved his life, and that was why you did it. Amber, he had told me over and over again that my work in trying to get him clean and sober, when he was clean and sober, he would tell me that I saved his life. It was so confusing because when he was clean and sober, he was wonderful. And that part of him I loved so much. And everyone around him just wanted him to get clean and sober. We just wanted him to be well and for him to get help. Johnny needs help. Let us keep to the question. I think you have answered it, that it was you. It was put to you that, well, the question was asked about your comment of him saying that you had saved his life and you had dealt with that. Amber, yes. Ms. Laws, this is just a lie, is it not? A total lie. Amber, no, it is not. No, it is not. Can you have a look, please, at file 6, tab 148B? Injustice Nickel. Ms. Laws, I'm afraid that my numbers are not very clear. Is this a paragraph? Ms. Laws, yes, it's a paragraph, blah, blah, blah. They seem to not be able to find it. Okay, so now they found the picture they were looking for. Ms. Laws, it's inconceivable, is it not, that this injury was caused by Mr. Depp smashing a phone on a wall. You have just lied about it, have you not? Amber, absolutely not, Miss Laws. I was there. I watched it. Oh, okay. So before yesterday, in day 11, she said that she didn't see the finger come off. She was just assuming. And now she's saying, I watched it. I watched it. I saw the whole thing. Injustice Nickel. Well, I've said before, Miss Heard, of course Miss Laws was not there, but I'm getting your response to her questions, and her questions are, in part at least, based on what her client's case is. Amber, sorry, maybe I should be more clear. What I meant is I would be shocked if Johnny remembers any of this himself, but I do remember. I was there. Oh, that's typical. That's typical. Yep, that's just typical behavior. Anyway, Ms. Laws, my lord, I really did not want to interrupt this witness, but I think we should get through events quicker if we dealt with the question, and the question was, it did not happen as a result of his hand smashing against the wall. I was not inviting the witness to speculate about Mr. Depp yet again, or add in a negative comment, or use it for that. We will get through things a lot quicker if we deal with the questions. Injustice Nickel, the question was that it is inconceivable that the claimant had suffered that injury by smashing a phone on the wall. Do you agree or disagree? Amber, disagree. Justice Nickel, thank you. Yes. So it's because that injury was you throwing a second bottle in his direction, smashing it down and severing the top of his finger, was it not? Amber, no. So it's with glass, was it not? Amber, no. So they found the other photograph they were looking for. Miss Laws, Mr. Depp on the hospital trolley with his finger on display. You stubbed his cigarette on his out in your rage on his cheek. Did you not? Yes or no? Amber, absolutely not. Justice Nickel, I'm sorry, Miss Laws. You have asked the witness to go to this photograph. Is the question about the photograph? Miss Laws, yes. It's not clear, but there is a mark on his right cheek, is there not? Amber, yes. And that is a mark from when you stubbed a cigarette out on his cheek, is it not? Amber, Johnny did that. Miss Laws, you did it, did you not? Amber, no, Johnny did it right in front of me. He often did things like that. And Justice Nickel, I think I have understood that you agree that the mark that we can see in photograph 52 is the consequence of a cigarette being stubbed out on Mr. Depp's cheek. But you say Mr. Depp did that himself and you deny that you did it? Amber, yep, that's correct. Justice Nickel, thank you. Yes. Ms. Laws, after according to you, Mr. Depp sliced his finger off himself, all on his own without any help from you, he carried on attacking you, according to you, did he not? Amber, wait, what? Which one are you? Miss Laws, your account is that he carried on attacking you after he severed the top of his finger off, is it not? Amber, yes, he did. I do not think he meant to sever the finger, but yes, he did continue to attack me. Miss Laws, this was a nasty incident in which you were extremely violent. Amber, absolutely not. Miss Laws, afterwards, we have got those tapes where we can hear some voices, and I'm not going to go back to those. Afterwards, when security arrived, you were screaming at Mr. Depp at one point not to leave. And then, in another moment, calling him a fucking coward for going. Amber, I did not hear that on the audio tapes. Miss Laws, I didn't ask if it was on the tape. I'm suggesting that's what happened. Amber, forgive me, I misunderstood. Miss Laws, forget whether you think you have taped it or not. Amber, forgive me, I misunderstood. Injustice, Nickel. Let us try to keep the course of the questioning clear. You are being asked whether or not it is true that at one stage you were screaming at Mr. Depp not to leave and then another calling him a coward for going. Do you agree or disagree? Amber, no on both of those accusations. Absolutely not. I was just in another room crying. Ms. Laws, you picked me up on the question a moment ago by saying you did not think it was on the tape and you needed a clarification of my question. Do you remember you just saying that? Amber, yes, my apologies. I thought you were referencing the end of the Australia incident, which is caught on tape. Thank God it's caught on tape. Ms. Laws, did you say yesterday that you had not actually listened to it all? Amber, that's correct. So how would you know what part is where, Amber? Ms. Laws, so you would not know, would you, whether it was on the tape or not? Amber, it all being the operative word. Ms. Laws, I'm sorry? Amber, it all, I said I had not listened to it all. Ms. Laws, yes. So you do not know whether in fact you would have been screaming on one portion of the tape. Amber, incorrect. The beginning of the tape is where the part where Johnny is leaving and captured, and the part I have heard. And despite what Johnny has said, you can hear how it ended. It ended in Johnny yelling incoherently, and I was in the background crying, and that's how it ended. Miss Laws, we dealt yesterday, and I'm not going to go over it again, but there was an additional question I wanted to ask. We dealt yesterday with the fact that you had accepted that you have used on occasions the phrase, have you been so angry you've lost it? Do you remember that part of your evidence yesterday? Amber, I believe so. So can I ask? And Justice Nickel, is that right? You've used the phrase in the past? Amber, I have referred to losing one's cool as losing it instead of losing one's cool in my life. I specifically denied referencing it to Ben King. I think that was what you asked me about yesterday. And I said if I did use that phrase or any version like it, I would have been asking about Johnny's behavior, not my own. Ms. Laws, it's a phrase. I just want to be clear. It's a phrase. Have you ever been so angry you've lost it? You said yesterday it's a phrase that you would or could have used about yourself. Let me make it clear, staying away from this incident because we have moved on from the incident, and I asked you whether it's a phrase you use generally, and you said it was. Do you agree with that? And Justice Nickel, I'm sorry, Ms. Laws, if we're going to go back on that, what the witness said yesterday, Ms. Laws, is just to put into context the next question, which is about an audio, all right? Because you indicated yesterday it was something you would say generally, so I'm just getting you to the point and reminding you of your evidence yesterday. This should not be controversial. We are just going over the evidence yesterday. Do you understand that? Do you remember that? You said that yesterday? Amber, okay. So I wonder, my lord, if I can take you to file 4. They're looking for files. Miss Laws. Now, this is an argument we have already referred to. It is the argument of September 2015. It's called Argument 2. We have heard bits about it. It is just a very short extract. It is your second answer on that page. I'm just going to play out for you now. Please do tell us if you can hear it or not. So they play the recording. So that is something we have just heard the conversation with Mr. Depp. Is it true that sometimes you get so angry you lose it? Amber, sometimes I lose my cool when I get angry. Yeah. So it is true, is it not? Amber, sometimes I get angry enough that I lose my cool. Miss Oz, you just lose it when you said, Amber, lose my cool. Yeah. They're looking for Amber's fifth witness statement. Miss Laws, what I want to deal with now, please. So this witness statement is dated 26th of June, 2020. Do you have that in front of you? Amber, I have the witness statement. Yes. Is this it? Miss Laws, I'm going to ask one or two things about it, but the topic I'm going to ask you about is taking the dogs into Australia. All right. We might be able to deal with this fairly swiftly. We may not, but I'm going to suggest to you that you were told by Mr. Murphy that in no uncertain terms, you could not take the dogs into Australia, were you not? Amber, I was told many things when we were trying to figure out whether they could travel or not. I was shooting movies, and this happened over a span of maybe 8 months. So I was told we might be able to. I was told not yet. I was told you have to wait to a different day. It was quite confusing. Did I miss something, or are we still in the fifth witness statement? Wow, that was a lot of words with no substance. As long as I was simply asking you, the question was, it was made quite clear to you by Mr. Murphy that you could not take the dogs into Australia, and you say there were missed messages? Amber, okay. As long as, is that your answer? Amber, yeah. As long as, I'm going to say the messages were fairly clear. In fact, if you could put up for the moment that file one side and actually have a look at those messages. They're looking for the message. Miss Laws, this is a message, an email message from Mr. Murphy to you dated March 28th, 2015. Is it not? Amber, yes, it is. Miss Laws, AH is you. Hi, just making sure you know that the dogs will not be able to fly commercial in the passenger compartment to Australia, not including flight. Justice Nickel, the 10,000 is not specified, is it? Miss Laws, 10K. Per our last discussion, RE, the dogs travel. Around May 7th, then for the reply, I'm afraid we have to go back to the other file at the top of the page. It is Mr. Murphy. It is not to you. That message at the top of the 29th. Holy shit, that was confusing. But Amber, yes. Ms. Laws, what he is saying is, hi, because of the paperwork process, combination of vet visits, permit application, let me know if you have any additional questions. Then for the carrying on correspondence, my lord, we can go to page at the top. Your response is, shit, okay, we are out of options then because I don't know what else to do. He responds to you, morning, would you allow them to fly cargo? Ms. Laws, would you allow them to fly cargo if then go to the top? We have Mr. Murphy to you saying on March 30th, I will have to continue the process for the dogs if they are going. There will be some non-refundable charges. Can you advise, please? Thanks. If we look at the response underneath that is back to Mr. Murphy. I'm sorry, but as I understand it, they were not able to travel with Jay since they could not travel with him. What process needs to be continued exactly? Then, rather confusingly, we go overleaf to page and your answer is at the bottom. In fact, it is the answer from Mr. Murphy. He said, we never concluded the original conversation other than you saying no to cargo. If that means that the dogs will not travel, then I will discontinue the paper travel process. Then the final message between the two of you is on April 1st. Your response is, yes, unless there is another way to get them there or get them on that plane with Jay, I don't send them in cargo. It's too dangerous. So you were told by Kevin Murphy, who had been doing quite a lot of work on this, was not able to get the documents ready in time, was he? Amber, no. As you can see from the small amount of correspondence that you have just read, this was a process that had been going on for about 6 months, and I was out of the country filming a movie. I was not even there with Johnny, so it was quite confusing to me what was going on, since, as I said in one of my emails to him, I do not understand why we're all still emailing about this. If there is a no-go, if that means they cannot simply not, and often, as my experience with Johnny, if Johnny wanted something, it happened. We found a way to make it work out. And he told me when I landed, I was only in LA for a matter of hours before we got on his plane for his movie. on his flight, with his crew, with his staff, for his movie, and I'm assuming everything that had been taken care of when he said it would be taken care of. I had no reason to get any clarity on it. Miss Laws, that is right. I'm just going to ask a question about it in a moment, but we have leapt ahead in time. I suggest to that it was laid out in black and white what the problem was, that there was just not going to be enough time to take them unless you took them cargo. I'm going to suggest you took the decision to take them anywhere. Did you not? Amber, it was not my decision. So I'm going to suggest it was your decision. All of these messages are between you and other people acting on your behalf of this matter, are they not? Amber, Johnny is the boss. So you are the boss, are you not, Miss Heard? Remember, I did not call any of the shots. This is Johnny's plane. It's Johnny's staff. It's Johnny's crew for Johnny's travel. So let us have a look at these emails, because what followed, we all know, and I can deal with it neutrally, is that you got caught. Amber, we both flew in, both Johnny and I, with both of our dogs for his movie on his plane. We brought the dogs in plain sight. We both filed up the same entry cards. We both signed the same things. And yet I was the only one that took the charges, because if Johnny got charges, it would have further compromised Pirates, which was already compromised. As well as Miss Heard, yet that is another occasion when I asked a question and you use it as an opportunity to say something negative about Mr. Depp. Remember, I did not say anything negative. I'm just trying to tell you the story. Yeah, the story. That's the problem, is the story. Ms. Laws, can I ask you to answer the question, which was, you knew full well that you should not take those dogs in, and you took them anyway. Do you agree or disagree? Remember, Johnny told me that we could bring the dogs in. I was not even there for more than a few hours. I flew to. Ms. Laws, you didn't have a single conversation with anyone about it, Remember, other than Johnny. Ms. Laws, with your staff about how they had managed to achieve this? Amber, Miss Laws, I did not have staff. Oh, Kate James, Savannah, Devonier. You did have staff. You did. Miss Laws, what about Mr. Murphy? Amber, that is Johnny's staff. Miss Laws, all right. You did not have any more conversation with him. The conversation stops there. Amber, I was very confused. I was shooting another movie and it was not my travel arrangements. I am just trying to be helpful. It was Johnny's planes, it was Johnny's movie, it was Johnny's staff, and it was Johnny's dog. It was my dog and Johnny's dog, and we filled out the same forms, and I was the only one that got charged. Miss Laws, can I ask you then who you were asking to take the blame for this? Amber, I took the blame. That's why I pled guilty. Miss Laws, you were making efforts, and you wanted to see if you could shunt the blame onto Miss James, did you not? Amber, I pled guilty. Why would I need to do that? Ms. Laws, according to what you just said, the last you heard about what was happening with the dogs was from Mr. Depp, so you did not know who, in fact, had sorted it all out. It was a member of his staff who must have done. Is that right? Amber, he had a large staff. There are many people responsible for things at various points of his travel. And Justice Nicol, what is being asked was, did you know which particular member of staff had sorted it out? Amber, no, I did not know it required exactly. What? I did not know what it required exactly. Okay. And Justice Nicol, thank you. So he made sense of that. Oh my God. Ms. Laws, so there is absolutely no reason for you to be emailing Martin Call and contacting Mr. Murphy about trying to get Kate James to write a statement about it? Amber, no, this is October 2015. This is after Marty Singer, Johnny's lawyer, had already stepped in with the authorities. We alerted to the dog's presence, and they were handling all the communications. And shortly after we left Australia, I found out that I was going to be faced with the charges, me and me alone, even though we flew in together and filled out the same paperwork and brought the same dogs. And Justice Nicol, there is a point I have had in mind for a little time now, and I think I can ask Ms. Heard about it. As I understood it, the charge you faced was bringing a dog into Australia, although you had said in some form or another that you were not bringing a dog into Australia. Amber, the entry card, yes. The entry card include that there are no illegal plants or animals being brought in with you, and I had traveled often with the dogs with Johnny, and the paperwork often included separate paperwork that did not list your travel dogs as one of the things had you to mark on it. The intake forms upon entering, so I mistakenly, so did Johnny, filled out the form thinking that it was separate paperwork that needed to be filled out to indicate dogs that were traveling with as pets. We both filled out these forms, but because Johnny had already compromised filming because of his finger and the amount of time that derailed production, it became clear to me through Johnny's attorneys that if I took the charges because I'm significantly less, have a lesser profile, oh, I'm sure she loved that one, if you were in the press, that it would somehow make it so that his job was less threatened than it already was. So I took the charges and I accepted that I filled out the form incorrectly and that it represented a falsehood. Okay, now here's the question. If I have a dog in my lap, I'm on a plane, I'm landing into Australia, and I'm looking at this declaration card, and I know this declaration card is serious business. They don't just throw them away. They actually keep them for a later date. And I'm looking at it, I'm like, are you bringing in any animals or food? And I'm looking at my dog, and I'm like, no. So I check no. Would I not be would I not be asking other people, like, hey, how do I let anyone know about this dog? Because we have all the paperwork. That's just me. That's just me not trying to get thrown in Australian jail for bringing my animal in. And Justice Nickel, just a minute. I think that the charge was knowingly making a false statement, and you agreed that you knew it was false because you knew you had the dog with you? Amber, exactly. That's it. Justice Nickel, just a minute. That concludes what I wanted to ask. Wait for Ms. Law's next question. Ms. Laws, I was about to take you to some emails that post-date this, but as we have dealt with that point, I wonder if I could take you. So you might have to put that file to one side just to deal with a particular point about what it was you did sign that is his lordship has just raised. If you can, it's filed 5.1, so you can either put it away or put it to one side. Ms. Laws, this, my lord, just to put it into context, is in fact a transcript of proceedings at the Magistrates Court in Southport on April 18th, 2016. So on the 21st of April, 2015, a private plane arrived at the Brisbane airport and it was met by quarantine and custom officers. And Justice Nickel, you were reading from Ms. Laws. Right at the top, on April 21st, 2015, a private plane arrived at the Brisbane airport and was met by quarantine and custom officers. Ms. Heard was on board that plane, as were the dogs. The answer was false. And Justice Nickel, that was the nature of the charge. Ms. Laws, that was the nature of the charge that you pled guilty, is it not? Amber, this is correct. Ms. Laws, so just dealing with that point, you knew it was false. You knew you were taking the dogs in, and you knew that they were not allowed to, did you not? And Justice Nickel, well, the charge was bringing the dogs in, having said that she was not bringing the dogs in. Ms. Laws, yes. And Justice Nickel, and the plea to that charge of guilty assumes that it was knowingly false. Ms. Laws, yes. And Justice, what was the question you were asking? Ms. Laws, the question was, you were taking those dogs in there knowing that you did not have the proper paperwork, were you not? Amber, that is different. No, I thought we had the proper paperwork. Wait a minute. So she pled guilty to knowing it was false, but she's claiming that they had the paperwork. She thought they had the paperwork. Why didn't she just stick to that story? I thought we had the paperwork. I didn't know it was false. I can't plead guilty to something knowing it was, anyway. Amber is not going to agree to something she didn't do when she won't agree to something she did do. It's just not in her nature. I can't see it. I maybe she can. Maybe, I don't know. I'm just not seeing it. Amber, it's different. And so did Johnny. Ms. Laws, put aside Mr. Depp yet again for the moment. It is you we are talking about now. Amber, we both signed it. Ms. Laws, yes, but I'm asking you about you. We will get through this a lot quicker if you restrict your answers to the question that I ask. Amber, sure. Ms. Laws, you knew you did not have the paperwork. Otherwise, you would not have ticked that box, would you? Amber, no, I thought because we had that paperwork, I should tick that box. No. No, Amber. No. If you have a dog on your lap and the piece of paper is asking you, do you have a dog on your lap? You say yes. She knew she didn't have the paperwork. She knew. Amber, it is that mistake that I pled guilty to. Ms. Laws, it is complete nonsense to suggest that ticking a box saying you are not bringing in animals, nobody would do that if. Amber, I can answer that if you're asking me why. Ms. Laws, no one would do that if they thought they had the paperwork, would they? No, they wouldn't. They wouldn't. They just wouldn't. Amber, that is how you used to have to fill it out when you entered the United States. It was different from the normal one. But you're not flying into the United States. You're flying into Australia, who has very serious biosecurity. For good reason, Amber. For good reason. Oh, my God. Ms. Laws, if you can go back to file 4. You have told us that you did not know which member of staff sorted it out. But what we see here, and I'm going to take you through it, are emails which show you were trying to find someone to take the blame for you, and that someone is Miss James, is it not? Amber, absolutely not. She did not work for me anymore. Miss Laws, that's why you were picking on her, because she was no longer working for you. And Justice Nickel, then the question was about Kate James. Was Kate James the person that you were asking to take the blame for you? Amber, no. Miss Laws, let us have a look here at these emails, because this is what they are all about, is it not? It is you to Martin Carl. Miss Laws, we start at the top, October 9th. It is you to Martin Carl. It is Carl Martin, is it not? Amber, no. Miss Laws, what is the name of the person you were emailing? Amber, Carl Austin and Marty Singer. Miss Laws, sorry, it was great. I will procure the statement. That would be great. Overleaf, rather confusingly, if you go to the other file at the bottom, we have from Mr. Singer to you. So underneath a message from Carl Austin, do you see it? October 11th, 2015? Amber, yes. Carl Austin, in fact, is your entertainment lawyer, is he not? Amber, yes, he is. Miss if you go to file I can read it out easier in full. If you look at my email below on October 9th, if you ask her not to be truthful. And Justice Nickel, this is from Marty Singer, is it? Miss Laws, yeah, to you. Is it not, Miss Heard? Amber, yes. Miss Laws, so Miss James is lying, is she, when she gave an account about this? Amber, I do not know. Did she give an account about this? Miss Laws, you wanted her, did you not, to make a statement that was lying statement to take responsibility? Amber, no, I did not need to. I was pleading guilty. And Justice Nickel, let me just you wanted her to make a lying statement, and you have denied that was the case? Amber, that is correct. Miss Laws, you ended up having to ask, or you did ask Kevin Murphy, and he did it all for you, did he not? He lied. Amber, I do not know if he was able to reach out to Kate. That wasn't the fucking question, Amber. Miss Laws, he ended up making the statement. And Justice Nickel, the question was concerning Mr. Murphy, but what was the question that Miss Heard was asking Mr. Murphy to do? Miss Laws, we have dealt with this in the email. You were asking Mr. Murphy to see if Kate James would lie for you, were you not? Amber, no, I was asking Kevin Murphy to get a statement from Kate, amongst other people that I had worked about in order to prove that we had many times traveled with the dogs, attempted to follow all legal protocol, and that we had many times before, had tried to do so legally, including this time. When we attempted to start the process in order to show that there was a long-standing attempt to go about the process legally, I did not need to ask anyone to lie for me. Why would I? I already pled guilty. So Mr. Murphy did lie for you. He, in fact, made a statement, essentially blaming the paperwork omission on Kate James, did he not? Amber, I've seen many versions of Kevin Murphy saying things that contradict himself for various reasons. Miss Laws, do not worry about whether he contradicts himself. It is that what he did. He seems to suggest that that's what he did. And Justice, if you're asking about Mr. Murphy's statement for the Australian proceedings, we have that. Can you remind me where it is? Okay, question. Then you will see the statement of Kevin Murphy, overleaf. It is signed by him, dated October 20th, 2015, at the bottom of the paragraph, just to read out, talking about in connection with the travel arrangements, if the necessary travel-related paperwork cannot be obtained, either Miss James or I would notify Mr. Depp and Mr. Depp otherwise. Mr. Depp and Mrs. Depp would not be notified. In this case, you had been notified initially, had you not? We have just seen the messages. Amber, are you asking me? Ms. Laws, yes, I said, have you not? Amber, what? I'm sorry. Ms. Laws, you were notified about the problems in the travel by Mr. Murphy. Amber, I was notified along the way that there were all sorts of back and forths. Ms. Laws, in fact, there have been several incidences when the dogs have not traveled internationally because the necessary travel-related paperwork cannot be obtained in time for the dogs to legally travel. That was a complete lie by Mr. Murphy, was it not, at your request? Amber, I have no idea which of these statements reflect his truth. Laws, even on your version of events, that is a lie because, in Justice Nickel, you asked whether there was a lie by Mr. Murphy in relation to the last sentence at paragraph 5, and Miss Heard said that she has no idea whether that was true. What was the next question, please, Miss Laws? Miss Laws, the next question was, even in your own account, that would not be correct because your account is that it was all Mr. Depp's responsibility. So it was not anyone on your staff or payroll who was organizing this? Ha ha. Amber, that is not true. Kate had been fired in early February 2015. I traveled with Johnny and his staff on his plane to go to shoot his movie or to accompany him on his movie in April of 2015. Sometime after my assistant, and Justice Nickel, there was a time when Mr. Depp injured his finger, and that was in March? Amber, yes. And Justice, you then, as we have heard, flew back to Los Angeles with Mr. King, and then you went out again to Australia, I think April 2015? Amber, April 21st, 2015. By that time, my assistant had been fired. She would have had contact and been responsible for handling some version of this and helping Mr. Murphy, who had primary responsibility in handling such things. However, she would have stopped doing that after her termination. Ms. Laws, in the messages we have seen, I do not want to spend too much time on it because the messages are what they are. In the messages that we see between you and Mr. Murphy, he is dealing with arrangements. At no stage is Miss James mentioned. You just brought her in for the purpose of these proceedings in Australia, did you not? Amber, I disagree. In fact, there were many communications between Miss Laws. If Kevin Murphy had not made that statement, the charge against you would have been far more serious. Amber, no, I pled guilty and stood charges as such for that plea. Ms. Laws, trying to get around official rules is something that you have done before, is it not? Amber, I do not even know what you mean. I'm sorry. Ms. Laws, you do not think there is anything wrong with asking vets to slightly alter health documents, do you? Amber, particularly with the dog travel, Johnny would tell me that it could just be taken care of. And when I expressed to him that that was not in my hands, or it was not getting done fast enough, or we were trying, he would tell me, just tell them to take care of it. Just tell them to grease the fuckers. Johnny would say this to me at any time I displayed any sort of delay in getting done what he thought was just easy to move around. It was his world. It was. Ms. Laws, again, I'm not asking about Mr. Depp. I was asking about you and what you think is right or wrong, so you can please answer the question. You do not think there is anything at all wrong with asking someone to get a vet to slightly alter a health document, do you? Amber, I was answering your question, Ms. Laws. My answer is, and Justice Nickel, let us deal with the question that Ms. Laws is now asking. Do you think it is wrong to get a vet to alter a document? Amber, of course I do, but it was not always my choice. I did not live in a relationship where I had a lot of choice. So, my lord, what I'm asking about is file 2, tab 56. It is the very last page. Some of the numbers may not have been printed in your lordship's copy. This is an email, subject Pistol and Boo, dated 21st September 2013, from you to Kate James when she was your assistant. That is right, is it not? Amber, yes, it appears to be that. So as you say, can you help Kevin procure a slightly altered health document that has their shots recorded as 2 days before so they can still leave together on the 25th? Do we have a vet we can grease? Connection? Amber, are you asking me something? And Justice Nickel, do you agree, first of all, that you sent that email? Amber, I sent it at Johnny's request. That is his language. You see it. I was not. Miss Law, and sorry, it's injustice. You sent that email as Mr. Depp's request? Amber, he told me. And Justice, just wait for the next question, please. Ms. Laws, every time you were asked about a document or a recording which might appear to implicate you for whatever it is, you deny and blame it on Mr. Depp every single time, do you not? Amber, no. Yes, Amber, you did. You are. We're seeing it in real time. Ms. Laws, all right, let's move to the Malaysia train incident. And I think this is where I'm going to cut it off because we're moving into a new incident and Malaysia train is once again, oh my God. Anyway. That's it. That's all. Have a wonderful day. I love you. I appreciate you. Take care of yourselves.